Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video and just sticking around and commenting and continuing to help this channel grow. It really means a lot to me. I wanted to do this video actually before my last video, but since my life confession was kind of the first thing that I did, I decided to just do that video first and then do this one, which is about Great Lent. And I do want to say sorry because I know that Great Lent is almost over essentially. I mean, we are almost out of March and then we have till April 12th. So it's almost over and I'm sorry about that, but I'm still going to document my experience and let you know kind of what is Great Lent, what to expect, as well as give some not advice, but uh, my parish, the priest has given us different directions and guidelines, and so I know that that might not be the same thing for everyone. And so, can I just take this and always refer back to your priest if you are attending an Orthodox church, or if you're just inquiring? Obviously, ask questions. It's no harm in that. And then I also wanted to go over some books that I'm reading during this period of Great Lent. So, what is Great Lent? And why am I experiencing this for the first time? Well, I am a catechumen, and I've been a catechumen since September of last year. And this is my first Great Lent as not as an Orthodox yet. At the end of this, I will become Orthodox. But this time period is fasting for 40 days, and it's not just fasting, it is this period where you engage in almsgiving, repentance, prayer, being in your word, doing the daily studies, the daily readings. And it's not just about fasting, but of course it is a pretty big focal point. And so as a catechumen, we were given specific guidelines for Great Lent. So I'll just kind of give like the overall rules for Great Lent and then tell you what's going to be a little bit different for me as a catechumen. So, Great Lent and fasting, what that means. Well, you know what I want to start with is I want to start with what I thought fasting was when I first started attending the Orthodox Church. It's kind of embarrassing, but basically, I would always read the bulletins and it would say like strict fast or it would just say fast. And at the time, I did not ask questions because I didn't know of a lot of people and I wasn't comfortable asking questions. I'm kind of shy. And so I just kind of took it at face value, which means that I thought fasting was like a medical fast where you don't eat anything, you just drink water, black coffee, herbal teas, the thing that typically people do to kind of like reset their metabolic system. And so one Wednesday, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna engage in this practice of fasting, and so I did not eat for 24 hours. I just had water, herbal teas, and as you can imagine, oh, I also had electrolytes, obviously, but that did not help me because I was very hungry and I had a very bad headache because I had no food in my system. And then after that, I felt comfortable enough to ask some people that I was regularly getting to know at the parish, and they said, no, that's not what fasting is. Fasting is essentially just going vegan. And I thought, I just had this relief of like, oh, that's it, just going vegan. Because I don't really care too much necessarily about having to have protein. I know there's a lot of people that they have to have some type of meat during every single meal, and I'm just not really, I don't really care, I guess. um, it's funny because I think that here in America, we are, for some reason, obsessed with protein and specifically meat, specifically like protein from meat. Uh, I don't know if it has to do with like the gym culture that we have here. I know that whenever I was in that realm or in that space of gym culture, I would eat anything that said like it was high in protein, but then I never read the ingredients and it was mostly just slop. It was just junk food, except it's disguised as healthy because there was protein in it. And then when I just had some time over in Europe and just traveling for the little bit that I have, you realize that it's kind of just an American thing that everyone's obsessed with protein, and that a lot of European countries do not obsess like we do over having meat with every meal or in every meal. I kind of had to shift my mindset. And I will say that it wasn't very difficult for me to shift that mindset after just doing a little bit more research on blue zones. If you've never heard of blue zones, they're essentially areas where people live the longest. I believe there's only one blue zone in America, which is in California, I think. And I, I believe the biggest blue zone is in Greece, and their diet doesn't really consist of meat. I believe they only have meat like maybe twice a week, and then they also have fish. When someone said, "Oh, it's just a vegan diet," I really didn't freak out. I didn't look at it as this really hard thing to do because my mindset had already kind of changed. So yes, Great Lent fasting means you're going vegan, and there are times during certain days where you can have fish, and uh, there are also further restrictions where you have to abstain from wine and oils. Now, that part can get a little, well, I don't know how every church does it, but from my understanding, the oil part is something that we don't really follow at my church or at our parish, because it used to be historically that you wouldn't have olive oil because it was carried in animal skins. So, of course, it wasn't vegan. Now, fast forward to nowadays where we don't carry it in animal skins anymore. And then I know that some people would say, well, it's all oils, but then again, we live in America where there is some type of seed oil in every single food. Essentially, you would have to be a raw vegan to really be within the standard. The oil part is not something that we follow. Be different for some of you who are in different countries or different parishes. I would love to know your experience with that and what your thoughts are on that. Now, as a catechumen, it's a little bit different. We were given a little bit different guidelines simply because the priest does not want us to burn out. And I know that that is a very real thing. People burn out all the time within this religion of Orthodoxy because there's a lot to do, there's a lot to get done, and there's a lot to that you must essentially just be disciplined in all areas of your life, and it can be very overwhelming. I know that there are people that end up even leaving their religion altogether just because of burnout, and it's very sad. So I am very appreciative that our priest is acknowledging that there is burnout is possible. And so we are not given these strict guidelines as catechumen. We were essentially told to abstain from meat. We could have dairy in small quantities, and then fish was okay, even on the days that, on days where you couldn't have fish, we could have fish. This fasting period for me, I understand that I'm not experiencing like the fullness of it, like the strictness of it, because we are given a little bit of leeway, right? So I don't want this video to come off as, oh, it's so easy to fast, because obviously I'm not strictly fasting. And some of you who are watching might not be able to even strictly fast even after you become Orthodox, because maybe you have a medical condition and you'll never be able to strictly fast. Of course, talk to your priest. That's always going to be the number one thing, is talk to your priest. But so far, I think that I've done okay, and it hasn't been excruciating. I'm really sticking to making really simple meals that don't require a lot of time because, essentially the time that if I make something really elaborate, is time that I could be spent praying or reading. I've just been sticking to the basics of salads. Um, I love to add like protein with garbanzo beans, black beans. I'll do like tortillas that are like organic vegan tortillas. They're not typically vegan, but I like to do organic tortillas, put in some black beans, and then maybe make like a little bit of salsa on the side. Just simple meals that I don't have to really overthink or think too much about because I want to make sure that I'm spending my time wisely and not obsessing over making the perfect meal. It's also important to note that even though fasting is a pretty big part of this time because it's making these active choices on whether to eat this or to eat that. It's not just fasting, as I stated at the start of this video. It is about your prayer life, it's about almsgiving, and it's also about doing the daily readings. I know that it can seem, I don't know, the way that I'm kind of thinking about it is it's kind of like the food pyramid, because I have no other analogy to compare it to, but it's like if you take the food pyramid and you were only to follow one part of it, then you're not going to get all your nutrients, right? So that's kind of how I think of Great Lent, is that if I was just fasting, but I wasn't praying and I wasn't in the Word, I wouldn't be getting everything that I am supposed to be getting out of this time of transformation and repentance. So let's say you are watching this and maybe you're not following a strict fast. I don't think anyone should feel guilty about that. Uh, but as long as we are, I guess, like making up for it, that's a really, I don't want to use that word. As long as we are putting it back into focusing on repentance and prayer, and, I think that that's good, right? Another part I want to touch on is that there is a lot of things that can come to the surface during this time in terms of, I don't know, just not feeling adequate enough. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with, is that I feel like even though I am following the guidelines that we were given as catechumen, I still don't feel like I'm doing enough. And I think that that is where the burnout comes from. And I am the type of person that I'm all or nothing. And so I think that if I'm not doing it at 100%, then I'm not doing it at all. And that's something that I really need to unlearn. And I am so thankful as well that I picked my godmother, and she has actually, when we met a couple weeks ago, she talked a little bit about that mindset and how it's so unhealthy. She's like, you cannot think like that. You cannot think all or nothing. And I'm very thankful that that people come into our lives at the right time, and that I get to have this godmother who can really give me advice, because this is completely new to me. I think it's really important to open up about struggling during this time, or just being open about kind of feeling like I'm failing a little bit, because that is where growth happens, is when we acknowledge, okay, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I'm as strict as I should be. But again, that's where burnout happens. And so we have to continuously be relying on God for this, and especially during this time. Something that also has been helping me is to not only stay within the daily readings that we have, but also reading other books that are helping me kind of stay focused, I guess you could say. So I'm going to mention and put these books down below. I'm going to link them. A book that I found at a different parish that we visited was this one right here. Food, Faith, and Fasting. It is really good. I This book is so good so far. I don't know if I'm not even halfway through with it, but it gives you all these like little training tools and just helps you to rethink your relationship with fasting. The thing I really love about this book is it is Orthodox. I believe the woman is an Orthodox Christian, but she also just says that this book is for everyone, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But this has given me so many good tools, and also there's some prayers in there that she tells you to do before and after you eat, which I struggle with. Another book that I have is The Sayings of the Desert Fathers. To read this whenever I have time. These are all the sayings of the Desert Fathers, and it's in alphabetical order. So you don't have to read this in order because it's not like chapters. And it's nice just to have, if you have a little bit of downtime, you can just read a couple of sayings, and it's just very easy to read if you're someone who's maybe not much of a reader. I also have the Psalter. I believe that this is the large print, and I'm going to be honest with you, I have been really not good at reading this every night and every morning, but I'm going to hopefully get better at that. And then the last book I have, which is called Acquiring the Mind of Christ. And this book I got at an art festival. It was a Orthodox art festival. This book so far, I'm on page 76, and it's touched on like pretty much everything, fasting included, which I wasn't expecting it to touch on fasting, but it did. And for me, like I said, I'm a catechumen, and although the classes are great, we do classes every Sunday, and then at one point we were doing them Sundays and Wednesdays because there was so much information that it couldn't all be done in a Sunday. It's a lot of information that you have to take in, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't necessarily learn from someone just telling me. I have to read about it and I have to really like put it in my head. For me, reading books like this help me to understand the church more and learn about more about the church history and the theology. I know that the Lord has led me here, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I can debate someone. Not that I would want to, um, but I don't know a lot of things. It's nice to pick up a book and just uh, have it bit by bit, piece by piece, and not feel like I have to take it all in at once. But I am not perfect, of course. I would love to hear y'all's experience during Great Lent and tell me, especially if you've been in the church for a while, what was your first Great Lent like? Was it really overwhelming? Is there any advice that you would have for me or anyone else? And like I said, I will be posting all of these books down below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye.